a better father anyway. My son announced at our family reunion. 15 years wasted on a loser. My wife laughed beside her new boyfriend. I just nodded, looked at my watch and walked away. The next morning the news broke, and suddenly everyone realized why I never fought back. I'd spent 20 years building a life most people only dream of, a veritable kingdom. But then I saw that look on my wife's face, that intimate smile, the hushed tones, and in that instant my world didn't just crack, it shattered. What she didn't know was that the man she thought she was deceiving wasn't just a husband. He was a ghost from a past where betrayal meant war, and I was about to remind her exactly what that felt like. Chapter 1. Fractures. It was a perfect sunset, painting my meticulously kept backyard in Northern Virginia. 52 years old, 2 kids in college, a career as a military intelligence officer turned security consultant that earned me respect on every level. Life by all accounts was good. I was nursing a bourbon, taking it all in, when I heard laughter drift across the patio. My wife, Dominique, phone pressed to her ear, her face alight with an expression I hadn't seen directed at me in years. That intimate smile, the way she twirled her dark hair. I knew it instantly. I should go. He's standing right there, she whispered, ending the call the second she saw me. Just Marissa from book club, she explained too quickly, sliding her phone away. Marissa from book club. The same excuse for 3 months. The same flimsy lie that had worn thin weeks ago. When I first noticed the new clothes, the renewed interest in fitness, the distinct unfamiliar scent of cologne on her. 25 years of marriage, through deployments, raising our kids Noah and Sophia. Through reinventing myself in civilian life. We'd weathered so much. But this was different. My career had been built on identifying falsehoods, on extracting truth from the shadows. I knew the landscape of deception better than anyone. That night, as Dominique slept beside me, I lay awake, the evidence cataloging itself in my mind. Texts reflected on our bedroom window, credit card statements showing hotel lunches for 2, GPS history that never matched her stories. I never intended to spy on her. But 2 decades in intelligence, observation, pattern recognition, threat assessment, those habits become second nature. I knew who he was. Preston Harlow, 48, recently divorced, a pharmaceutical sales executive. Met Dominique at a charity gala 6 months ago. Preston, with his Italian suits and Mediterranean yacht photos. Preston, who'd never served, never sacrificed. Preston, who was now enjoying the fruits of my labor. I closed my eyes, not in defeat but in calculation. No confrontation. No desperate pleas, no marriage counseling. That wasn't my way. Instead, I began to construct a mental blueprint, meticulously detailed, precisely timed. And this blueprint, it wasn't for a military operation. It was for something much, much more personal. Chapter 2. Confirmation. The family reunion at Lake Anna was a decades-old tradition. This year it was the perfect stage for my plan. I'd booked 3 cabins. One for us, one for Noah and his girlfriend, and a third supposedly empty for Sophia. I watched from the lodge deck as Preston's silver BMW pulled in, right on schedule. Dominique had claimed she needed to drive separately for errands. The perfect cover for her lover to blend in. Vincent. How long has it been? Preston approached with practiced confidence, a fake smile plastered on his face. As if we were old friends. Preston. Good to see you, I replied, my voice a mask of warmth, shaking his hand, feeling the rage simmer beneath. The day crawled by, filled with forced pleasantries. Their attempts at discretion were almost insulting, brief touches, knowing glances, suspiciously long synchronized bathroom breaks. By evening we were all by the bonfire. That's when Noah came up to me. His girlfriend Tessa behind him. Dad, can we talk? He asked, his young face serious. We walked away from the crowd. I know about Mom and Preston, he blurted out. She told me a few weeks ago. She said you two haven't been married in any real way for years, just going through the motions. I took a slow sip of my whiskey. And you believe that? I've seen how you are, Dad. Always distant, always working. Mom says you checked out of the marriage years ago. His voice hardened. Preston actually listens to her. He makes her happy. The words hit, but I held firm. I see. Noah shifted, uncomfortable. Preston's actually pretty cool. He's already offered to help me get an internship at his company. I nodded slowly. That's generous of him. Yeah, Noah shrugged, looking away. He's a better father anyway. That word. Father. It struck me like precision artillery. But I just checked my watch. I appreciate your honesty, Noah. Excuse me for a moment. I walked toward the dock, where Dominique and Preston were silhouetted against the moonlit lake, their laughter carrying on the wind. 15 years wasted on that loser, Dominique chuckled, leaning into Preston's embrace. He doesn't even suspect a thing. I cleared my throat. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Vincent. I didn't see you there, Dominique stammered, flushing. Clearly, I replied, my voice cool, detached. I checked my watch again. I'm heading back to our cabin. Don't wait up. As I turned, Preston called out. Hey Vincent, no hard feelings, right? These things happen. I paused, then simply nodded, walking away, ignoring the muffled laughter that resumed behind me. I didn't go back to the cabin. I got in my SUV, driving away from the resort, my phone already connecting to a secure line. Is everything in place? I asked. Yes, sir. All systems are ready. Activation on your command. Good. Execute 0600 hours. No deviations. I ended the call, driving into the night, my face illuminated by the dashboard lights. Not in anguish but in cold, calculated anticipation. Chapter 3. Genesis. The morning sun barely kissed the horizon when I returned. I just poured myself a coffee in the lodge when my phone vibrated. A news alert. At precisely the same moment, phones all around me started buzzing. I watched passively, as sleepy faces morphed into expressions of pure shock. Oh my God! Gasped an elderly aunt staring at her screen. Preston Harlow is a terrorist. What? Someone else exclaimed. I sipped my coffee. Headlines screamed from every screen. Breaking. Pharmaceutical executive Preston Harlow linked to bioweapon development. Top secret documents reveal illegal compounds tested on unwitting patients. Photos of Preston in handcuffs flashed across the screens, carefully doctored images I knew, created by former colleagues still very much indebted to me. Dominique burst into the lodge, her face ashen. Have you seen the news? This can't be real. I know Preston. He wouldn't. She stopped, realizing her mistake. Know him well, do you? I asked, my voice eerily gentle. Before she could respond, federal agents flooded the lodge, their FBI jackets unmistakable. Leading them was Special Agent Derek Walsh, a man who owed his career and his life to me. Preston Harlow, Walsh called out. All eyes turned to the entrance where Preston stood frozen, having just arrived from his cabin, his face drained of color. Preston Harlow, you're under arrest for conspiracy against the United States, illegal weapons development and treason, Walsh announced. This is insane. I've done nothing wrong. Preston protested as agents surrounded him. Vincent, tell them this is a mistake. I just sipped my coffee, watching as Preston's gaze shifted from pleading to dawning comprehension. You. He whispered. You did this. I remained silent as they cuffed him. How could you? Dominique hissed at me, her eyes wild with panic. Me. I replied softly. I've simply been a dedicated civil servant my whole life. I report threats when I see them. I nodded toward Agent Walsh, who was now approaching Dominique. Mrs. Reynolds, we have some questions about your relationship with Mr. Harlow. We've discovered numerous communications between you, suggesting you may have been aware of his activities. That's ridiculous. I knew nothing about any of this, she protested. The evidence suggests otherwise, Walsh replied. We'll need you to come with us for questioning. As they escorted Dominique and Preston out, Noah pushed through the crowd, his face a mixture of confusion and raw betrayal. Dad, what the hell is happening? He demanded. I carefully placed my coffee cup down. It appears your mother and her boyfriend have been involved in something very dangerous, Noah. I'm as shocked as you are. This is BS. You did something, didn't you? Noah accused, his voice cracking. I met his gaze steadily. I've spent my life protecting this country from threats, son. That's all I've ever done. As Noah stormed off, my phone vibrated. A text from Sophia. Phase 1 complete. Arriving tonight for Phase 2. Well done, Dad. I allowed myself the briefest, most private smile before composing my features back into an appropriate mask of concern. The family chaos provided the perfect cover as I slipped away to prepare. This, my friends, was merely the beginning. Chapter 4. Revelations. 3 days after the arrests, I sat across from Noah in a quiet DC cafe. He looked haggard, his eyes shadowed from sleepless nights spent watching his mother and Preston vilified across every news channel. The evidence is fabricated, he stated flatly, pushing away his untouched coffee. I've spoken to Mom's lawyer. They can't find any actual links to these bioweapons. I nodded thoughtfully. That's good news then. If they're innocent, the truth will come out. Cut the crap, Dad. Noah snapped. You're behind this. I don't know how, but this has your fingerprints all over it. I studied my son. The intelligence was there, I always knew he had it. Why would I do something like that? Revenge. Noah retorted without hesitation. Mom cheated on you, so you're destroying her life and Preston's. It's sick. An interesting theory, I conceded. But consider this. If I had the power to orchestrate something of this magnitude, what does that tell you about the man you've dismissed as a loser who's checked out of his marriage? Noah fell silent, confusion clouding his features. Did your mother ever tell you what I actually did during all those years I was distant and always working? I asked quietly. Government security consultant. Noah answered automatically. I smiled thinly. A convenient title. Tell me, what do you know about Preston beyond his sales job and his yacht? He's successful. He cares about Mom. Did you know he was investigated 3 years ago for selling pharmaceutical secrets to foreign entities? I interrupted, sliding a file across the table. Or that his company has been quietly acquiring small biotech firms specializing in weaponized pathogens. Noah stared at the file but didn't touch it. If that's true, why wasn't he arrested before? Powerful friends. Money in the right pockets. I shrugged. The system isn't perfect. So what are you saying? That mom accidentally fell in love with an actual criminal. I leaned forward. I'm saying perhaps I was absent from family dinners because I was protecting our country from people exactly like Preston Harlow. And perhaps your mother's infidelity simply provided the motivation to look more closely at a man I already had concerns about. Noah's hands trembled slightly as he finally opened the file, scanning documents bearing authentic government seals and classifications. This doesn't justify framing them, he insisted, but with far less conviction. I haven't framed anyone, Noah. I simply provided intelligence to the appropriate authorities. My voice remained calm. The question you should be asking is not why I would do this, but why your mother chose a man like Preston in the first place. Noah looked up sharply. What does that mean? Did you know your mother met Preston 3 years ago, not 6 months ago as she claimed? I produced another document, a surveillance photo dated well before Dominique's supposed first meeting. Or that she's visited his private account in the Cayman Islands twice in the past year? She wouldn't. Noah stammered. The internship he offered you, I continued relentlessly. The position reports directly to a research division currently under investigation by 3 separate agencies. Noah pushed back from the table, his face pale. I don't believe you. You don't have to, I replied, gathering the documents. But you might want to reconsider who the villain is in this story. As Noah stormed out, my phone rang. Sophia. He's struggling with it, I reported when I answered. As expected, Sophia replied. The Swiss account transfers are complete. Are you sure about the next step? It's extreme even for them. They chose their path, I stated, my voice hardening. And Noah made his choice clear at the reunion. He's just a kid, Dad. He didn't understand. He's 22, Sophia. Old enough to publicly declare another man a better father, while knowing what his mother was doing. My tone broke no argument. Actions have consequences. After ending the call, I walked to my car where Derek Walsh waited. The federal charges won't stick, Walsh warned. My superiors are already questioning the evidence. They don't need to stick, I replied, sliding into the passenger seat. They just needed to exist long enough to trigger the international attention. Walsh nodded grimly. Interpol has issued their own warrants based on European distribution channels linked to Harlow. That's beyond my jurisdiction and my help. I never expected the American charges to be the end of it, I assured him. Just the beginning. How's the surveillance on Noah? In place. He's angry, confused. Made 3 calls to your wife's attorney after leaving you. Walsh hesitated. Are you sure about bringing him into this? He's your son. I stared out the window at the Capitol dome gleaming in the distance. My son died at that reunion when he chose them over the truth. What remains is a pawn in a larger game. Walsh shook his head slightly, but said nothing more as we drove toward my next appointment. The game, you see, was expanding precisely as I had designed it to. Chapter 5. Acceleration. The exclusive private club in Georgetown was the perfect cover for my meeting with Alexei Petrov, a mid-level SVR officer. Your wife and her lover have created quite the international incident, Alexei remarked, sipping his vodka. Moscow is particularly interested in the Novak derivative formulas, allegedly found on Harlow's servers. Imagine that, I replied neutrally. Alexei smiled thinly. We both know those formulas were planted. The question is by whom? You or someone using you? Does it matter? I challenged. The evidence exists and multiple intelligence agencies are now investigating connections that weren't on their radar before. It matters to those of us trying to determine if this is personal revenge or something more geopolitically motivated. Alexei studied me. Your daughter's research in Europe, so close to our Ukrainian operations, has not been unnoticed. My expression didn't change, though internally, I noted Sophia's cover was holding perfectly. My daughter is a medical researcher, nothing more. Of course, Alexei conceded with obvious disbelief. Just as you're merely a retired security consultant. Tell me, does Noah understand the role he's playing in your chess match? The mention of my son's name from the Russian's lips sent a cold surge through me, but I betrayed nothing. I wasn't aware he was playing any role. No. Alexei produced a phone, showing surveillance photos of Noah entering the Russian consulate in Boston 2 hours earlier. It seems he's shopping quite an interesting story to anyone who will listen. Claims his father has fabricated evidence against his mother and her lover. Wants help proving it. I absorbed this with practiced calm. The desperate actions of a confused young man. Perhaps, Alexei agreed. Or the opening moves of a counterplay you didn't anticipate. We're considering hearing him out. I wouldn't recommend that, I said softly, a subtle threat hanging in the air. Alexei chuckled. Always the protective father, despite everything. Don't worry, Vincent. We didn't let him in. But others might. The Chinese perhaps. Or the Iranians? Your son is broadcasting his willingness to provide information on a decorated American intelligence operative in exchange for help exonerating his mother. That makes him valuable. And dangerous. Indeed, I added. Alexei finished his drink. Dominique has been moved to a secure facility, pending additional questioning. Diplomatic pressure from 3 countries has escalated her case beyond standard channels. This was news to me. Which countries? Germany, France, and surprisingly Japan. All places where Harlow Pharmaceuticals has subsidiaries currently under inspection. Alexei stood. Whatever game you're playing, Vincent, it has expanded beyond your control. That's usually when mistakes happen. After Alexei departed, I sat alone processing this development. Noah's betrayal cut deeper than expected, but it also presented an opportunity to accelerate the timetable. I placed a call to a secure line. Change of plans. Activate protocol duties immediately. Across town, Sophia received the message. Unlike her brother, she had never been fooled by her mother's facade. Growing up, watching Dominique manipulate me had forged Sophia's unwavering loyalty and her willingness to participate in my intricate plan. She initiated a sequence of encrypted commands that would trigger digital tripwires planted throughout Dominique's and Preston's digital lives. Within hours, every dark secret they had tried to bury would begin surfacing in carefully orchestrated revelations. Meanwhile, Noah paced his hotel room, furious after being turned away from the Russian consulate. His phone rang, a blocked number. Hello, he answered cautiously. Noah Reynolds, an accented voice inquired. This is a friend. I understand you're looking for help regarding your mother's situation. Who is this? Someone who shares your concern about the evidence against Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds. Perhaps we could meet. Noah hesitated only briefly before agreeing. He was unaware, of course, that the call originated from a team operating under my direct control. The trap was set. That evening, as news broke of additional evidence linking Preston to biological weapons research in North Korea, I sat in my study reviewing the final stages of my plan. On my desk lay photographs. Not of Dominique or Preston, but of my children. Noah as a boy looking up at me with adoration. Sophia graduating with honors. A family that once seemed perfect. For a brief moment, I allowed myself to feel the weight of what was being lost in my pursuit of justice. Then I thought of the family reunion, of the public humiliation, of 15 years being dismissed as wasted on that loser. And my resolve hardened once more. By tomorrow there would be no turning back for any of us. Chapter 6. Escalation. The abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Baltimore. Once it housed medical supplies. Now, it was an ironic setting for Noah's meeting with the mysterious contact who had promised evidence exonerating his mother. He arrived early, scanning the cavernous space with growing unease. Hello. His voice echoed. Footsteps. A man emerged from the shadows, mid-30s, military bearing, carrying a leather briefcase. Mr. Reynolds, the man greeted him. Thank you for coming. You said you have information about my mother's case, Noah prompted. Indeed. The man placed the briefcase on a dusty countertop. But first, I need to understand why you believe your father fabricated evidence. Noah hesitated. Because I know my father. He's calculating. Cold. He found out my mom was having an affair. And instead of confronting it like a normal person, he did this. Interesting, the man nodded. And you believe your father possesses the capability to frame 2 innocent people so thoroughly that multiple intelligence agencies are involved? He worked in government intelligence for decades, Noah replied. He has connections. Impressive for a man you describe to others as a loser, the man observed, his tone hardening. Noah froze. The implications sunk in. Wait, who are you really? Suddenly, the warehouse lights blazed, revealing a dozen operatives in tactical gear. Among them, Sophia. Her expression grim as she approached her brother. Hello, Noah, she said quietly. Sophia, what the hell is going on? Noah demanded, panic rising. Education, she replied simply. You've spent years believing mom's version of reality. Now you get to see the truth. The man opened his briefcase to reveal a sophisticated computer setup. With a few keystrokes, the warehouse walls illuminated with projected images, surveillance photos, documents, video footage. Preston Harlow, the man began, gesturing to the displays. Former naval intelligence officer, dishonorably discharged in 2007 for selling classified information. Reinvented himself in the pharmaceutical industry using contacts from his military days. That's not. Noah started to protest. Your mother met Preston in 2020 during a classified operation your father was leading in Vienna, Sophia continued, advancing the displays to show dated photographs of Dominique and Preston at a gala. She was there as Dad's cover. Preston was there representing interests that directly opposed American security. Noah shook his head in disbelief. Mom isn't a spy. She's an interior designer. Mom is whatever she needs to be, Sophia corrected him. Interior designer. Loving wife. Spy. Did you never wonder how her small design firm could afford her lifestyle? How she always seemed to travel to the same cities where Dad had operations. The displays changed to financial records, showing millions flowing through accounts in Dominique's name. Your mother has been selling information from Dad's operations for years, Sophia stated flatly. At first a fun lifestyle. Later, because she developed ideological sympathies with Preston's employers. This is insane, Noah whispered, backing away. Dad put you up to this. This is all part of his revenge. Is this revenge too? The man activated a final display, showing Noah himself meeting with Preston at his company headquarters months before the family reunion. You were being recruited, Noah. Not for an internship but as an asset. Leveraging your resentment toward your father to gain access to his knowledge. Noah stared at the footage in horror, recognizing the meeting but seeing it through an entirely different lens. I didn't know. I thought it was just about an internship. You didn't want to know, Sophia corrected him. You were so eager to believe Dad was the villain that you never questioned why Preston Harlow, a pharmaceutical executive you barely knew, would take such interest in a college student with no experience in his field. Noah sank onto a nearby crate, his world collapsing. Where's Dad now? Completing what he started, Sophia answered. The question is, which side are you on, Noah? Because after tonight, there's no middle ground left. Across the city, I sat opposite Dominique in a sterile interview room within a federal detention facility. She looked haggard, her designer clothes replaced by a standard-issue jumpsuit. I always knew you were vindictive, Vincent, but this... Dominique gestured at their surroundings. Treason charges? International warrants? All because I fell in love with someone else. Is that what you think this is about? I asked mildly. What else? You couldn't stand being left, so you fabricated this. This fantasy that Preston and I are criminals. She leaned forward, dropping her voice. The lawyers say none of it will stick. You've overplayed your hand, Vincent. I smiled slightly. Did Preston ever tell you about his time at Be Great? Or his special arrangement with the North Korean pharmaceutical program? Dominique's expression flickered briefly. More lies. Perhaps, I conceded. But effective ones, judging by how quickly international agencies became involved. Tell me, do you remember a vacation we took to Lake Geneva in 2016? You insisted on that specific hotel, the one with a private boat launch. The color drained from Dominique's face. That was years ago. Indeed. During an operation tracking biological agents moving through Switzerland. Curious timing for you to suddenly desire a Swiss vacation, especially at a hotel where 3 known arms dealers were staying. I tilted my head. I've overlooked so many coincidences over the years, Dominique. So many strange alignments between your social calendar and sensitive operations. You're delusional, she whispered, but without conviction. The affairs I could have forgiven, I continued as if she hadn't spoken. The disrespect, even the poisoning of Noah against me. But selling out your country, endangering operations that cost good people their lives. My voice remained steady, even as my eyes hardened. That's unforgivable. I want my lawyer, Dominique demanded, standing abruptly. By all means, I agreed, also rising. Though you might want to wait until tomorrow. Tonight, Interpol is executing search warrants on 17 properties connected to you and Preston across 9 countries. Whatever they find will significantly impact your legal strategy. As I turned to leave, Dominique called after me. You won't win this, Vincent. You've never understood how many friends I have. How many people would choose me over you. Noah already has. I paused at the door. About Noah, you might be surprised by his current perspective. Family reunions can be so enlightening. The look of uncertainty that crossed Dominique's face was all the confirmation I needed. The seeds of doubt had been planted. As I exited the facility, my phone vibrated. A message from Sophia. Noah's in operation. Severance goes. I allowed myself a genuine smile for the first time in months as I texted back a single word. Execute. Chapter 7. Demolition. 3 weeks after Dominique's arrest, news outlets around the world exploded with new revelations. Comprehensive evidence had emerged. Preston Harlow's pharmaceutical empire was built on stolen research, much of it from classified military medical programs. More damning still were documented connections to bioweapon programs in multiple countries, and all trails led back to companies where Dominique Reynolds served as a silent partner or consultant. I watched the coverage from a secure facility, surrounded by monitors displaying real-time reactions across global intelligence communities. Beside me sat Noah, still shell-shocked from his rapid education in his family's true history, but now determined to make amends for his blind loyalty to his mother. They're saying Mom could face the death penalty, Noah said quietly, staring at news tickers. That's unlikely, I replied. She'll be offered a deal in exchange for information on Preston's network. Will she take it? Noah asked. I considered. No. Her ego won't allow her to implicate herself, even to save her own life. She still believes her connections will protect her. Noah shook his head in disbelief. How did I never see any of this growing up? Your mother is exceptional at compartmentalization, I explained. And I deliberately kept both you and Sophia insulated from my work. Not Sophia, Noah corrected me. She's been working with you for years, hasn't she? I nodded, pride evident. Since college. Her medical research position is genuine, but also provides excellent cover for intelligence gathering. The door opened and Sophia entered, carrying several tablets. It's done, she announced. Preston's lawyer just received the evidence package. He's already called 3 times requesting a meeting. And the offshore accounts? I asked. Frozen. All 15 of them, Sophia confirmed. The London and Zurich properties have been seized. Mom's design firm is being raided as we speak. I turned to Noah. Are you still certain you want to proceed with your part? Noah squared his shoulders. Yes. I need to make this right. Hours later, Noah sat across from his mother in the same interview room I had used. Dominique brightened at the sight of her son. Noah, thank God. Have you spoken to the lawyers? This nightmare. I know everything, Mom, Noah interrupted, pulling his hands back. About you and Preston. About what you've been doing all these years. Dominique's expression hardened. Your father got to you. No, Mom. The truth got to me. Noah placed a document on the table. A sworn affidavit. I'm testifying against you and Preston. About the meetings, the recruitment attempts. Everything. You can't be serious, Noah. After everything I've done for you, I protected you from knowing what your father really is. A cold, calculating killer who values his missions more than his family. That's exactly what you wanted me to believe, Noah acknowledged. But now I understand why he was distant. He was protecting us from the consequences of your actions. Dominique's face contorted with rage. You ungrateful little. Save it, Mom. Noah cut her off, rising. The prosecutors have offered me immunity in exchange for my testimony. I suggest you consider a similar arrangement, while it's still available. As he turned to leave, Dominique called after him. He'll discard you too, Noah. Vincent doesn't forgive betrayal, ever. Ask him about Cairo if you don't believe me. Noah paused at the door. Already know about Cairo, Mom. The difference is I'm owning my mistakes. You're still denying yours. Across town, I met with Preston's attorney in an upscale law office. The lawyer, sweating despite the powerful air conditioning, pushed a proposal across the polished table. My client is willing to provide complete details on Mrs. Reynolds' involvement in exchange for considerations regarding his sentencing, he explained. I reviewed the document dispassionately. Your client seems to be under the impression that this is a negotiation. Mr. Reynolds, surely you understand the value of Mr. Harlow's cooperation, the lawyer pressed. He could provide names, dates, account numbers, everything your wife did while using his business as cover. Interesting that 48 hours ago, Mr. Harlow was proclaiming both his and my wife's complete innocence, I observed. Quite the reversal. The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. New evidence has created new perspectives. Indeed. I slid the proposal back untouched. Please inform Mr. Harlow that his offer is declined. The evidence against both him and my wife is more than sufficient without his cooperation. But, the lawyer sputtered. Also, I continued, as if the man hadn't spoken, inform him that additional information regarding his activities in Damascus in 2018 will be provided to prosecutors tomorrow morning. He might want to adjust his legal strategy accordingly. The color drained from the lawyer's face. Damascus? There's nothing in the current charges about Damascus. Not yet, I agreed, standing to leave. Give Mr. Harlow my regards. That evening I convened with my team. Trusted former colleagues, intelligence operatives who owed me their lives or careers, and my children. The conference room wall displayed a complex flowchart of operations spanning 2 decades. We've dismantled their financial resources, Sophia reported. Every account we know about has been frozen or seized. Their social capital is equally compromised, added Alan Merritt, a former CIA deputy director. Preston's political connections have all distanced themselves. Dominique's influential friends have gone silent. What about the unknown factors? I asked. Dominique's reference to friends suggests contingencies we haven't identified. We've been monitoring all communications, Noah offered, now fully integrated into the team. Nothing unusual has been detected. I nodded thoughtfully. Then we proceed to the final phase. Sophia, initiate protocol severance. As the team dispersed, I stood alone before the flowchart, studying the intricate connections I had spent weeks mapping, and was now systematically destroying. Each node represented a relationship, an asset, a protection that Dominique and Preston had cultivated over years. One by one, the nodes on the display began changing from green to red as my team executed protocol severance, the complete and irreversible isolation of the targets from every resource and relationship they had ever established. By morning, Preston Harlow and Dominique Reynolds would stand entirely alone against the full force of international justice, precisely as I had planned from the moment I had walked away from that family reunion, 3 months earlier. Chapter 8. Isolation. 2 days before the preliminary hearing, I received an unexpected visitor. Special Agent Walsh arrived at my Virginia home without warning, his expression grave. "We have a situation," he announced. "Dominique has disappeared from federal custody." My expression didn't change. "Disappeared during transfer to the courthouse for a pretrial meeting with her attorneys." Walsh ran a hand through his thinning hair. "The transport vehicle was found abandoned. Both agents unconscious but alive. No sign of Dominique." I nodded slowly. The contingency she hinted at. Impressive. Walsh studied me carefully. "You don't seem surprised." "I'm not," I admitted. "Dominique always maintains escape routes. I've been expecting something like this since her arrest. My superiors are suggesting you might be involved, creating an opportunity to deal with her personally." I smiled thinly. "Your superiors credit me with too much influence over federal prisoner transportation protocols." "Maybe," Walsh conceded. "But they've authorized surveillance on you effective immediately. Whatever history we have, Vincent, I can't interfere with that." "I wouldn't expect you to," I assured him. "Tell your superiors I'll be staying right here, easily monitored. No sudden trips or unexplained absences." After Walsh departed, I contacted Sophia. "Your mother has fled custody." "Right on schedule," Sophia replied, unsurprised. "Facial recognition caught her boarding a private jet at a small airfield in Delaware 90 minutes ago. Destination filed as Toronto, but the flight plan diverted over Pennsylvania. She's heading for the lake house," I concluded. "Predictable. She believes the emergency documents and cash are still hidden in the boathouse safe." "They are," Sophia confirmed, "along with tracking devices in every bill and document. Noah has a team standing by 20 miles from the property. Tell him to maintain position," I instructed. "She won't be alone, and I want to identify everyone involved in her escape network." For the next 18 hours, I performed the role of concerned, bewildered husband perfectly. I cooperated fully with FBI surveillance, made appropriate calls to attorneys expressing shock, and appeared genuinely distressed in a brief press interaction. Meanwhile, Sophia and Noah monitored Dominique's movement. Our mother had indeed gone directly to the family's secluded lake house in upstate New York, accompanied by 2 men identified as private military contractors with ties to Preston's overseas operations. "She accessed the safe 30 minutes ago," Noah reported. "GPS trackers show movement north, toward the Canadian border." "And Preston?" I asked, speaking via encrypted line from my study, while FBI agents monitored the exterior of my home. "Still in custody, but his attorney has filed emergency motions claiming the evidence against him is inadmissible due to your personal involvement in the investigation," Sophia answered. "The judge has scheduled a hearing for tomorrow morning." I considered this. "Preston is a distraction. Your mother is the priority now. She'll attempt to cross at a minor checkpoint using credentials from a safe." "We've alerted customs discreetly," Noah confirmed. "They'll delay but not detain her. Enough to allow our team to intercept before she realizes it's a trap." "Good," I approved. "I'll join you once she's secured. The surveillance on me will ease once they believe she's fled the country." 12 hours later, Dominique Reynolds sat in a Spartan room within a hunting lodge deep in the Adirondack Mountains. Her escape had proceeded flawlessly until the border crossing, where unexpected delays had forced her to divert. There, her security team had been neutralized by operatives she never saw, and she found herself transported to this isolated location. The door opened and I entered alone. "I should have known," Dominique said bitterly. "Was there ever really an escape, or was it all your orchestration?" "The escape was genuine," I replied, taking a seat across from her. "Your connections are impressive, or were until recently. What happens now? You turn me over to the authorities to face a show trial based on evidence you fabricated." I shook my head. "Nothing I presented was fabricated, Dominique. Manipulated and strategically revealed, yes. But every document, every photograph, every financial record is authentic." Dominique's composure faltered slightly. "You can't prove intent." "I don't need to. The evidence speaks for itself." I leaned forward. "But we're not here to discuss your legal predicament. We're here to discuss Noah." Uncertainty crossed Dominique's features. "Noah? What about him?" "He's made his choice to testify against you, which places him at considerable risk from your remaining allies." My voice hardened. "I want the names of everyone in your network who might consider him a liability." Dominique laughed incredulously. "You expect me to help you protect the son who betrayed me?" "I expect you to do one decent thing as his mother," I replied evenly. "But I'm prepared for your refusal." I placed a tablet on the table, displaying a video feed of Preston Harlow in his cell, sleeping fitfully. "What is this?" Dominique asked, confused. "Preston's cell is currently pumping in a colorless, odorless compound derived from one of his own company's experimental formulas," I explained clinically. "At his current exposure level, he'll experience progressive neurological deterioration over approximately 6 weeks. Symptoms begin with tremors, advance to memory loss, and culminate in complete cognitive collapse." Horror dawned on Dominique's face. "You're poisoning him." I'm demonstrating consequences, I corrected her. The compound can be neutralized completely if administered within the next 4 hours. After that, the damage becomes irreversible. You're bluffing, Dominique challenged. You don't have access to a cell's ventilation system. I simply raised an eyebrow. The same way I didn't have the capability to frame 2 innocent people for international crimes? Dominique stared at the screen, watching Preston twitch in his sleep. The first subtle sign of the compound taking effect. The name's Dominique, I prompted. Every contact who might target Noah. In exchange, Preston receives the antidote. And if I refuse? Then I return you to federal custody. And nature takes its course with Preston. My voice was devoid of emotion. Your choice. Dominique's eyes darted between me and the screen, calculation and fear warring in her expression. Finally, resignation settled. There's a ledger, she said quietly. Hidden compartment in my desk at the design firm. Names, contacts, payment records. Everything. I nodded. Sophia will verify that information immediately. If it's accurate and complete, Preston receives treatment for an unexpected reaction to his medication. If not, I let the implication hang in the air. You become a monster, Vincent, Dominique whispered. No, I corrected her, standing. I have simply become what you always accused me of being, the man who puts objectives above sentimentality. The irony is, I learned it from you. As I exited, Dominique called after me. What happens to me now? I paused in the doorway. You'll face trial for everything you've done. But Noah will be safe. The only gift I have left to give the son who called me a loser. The door closed with finality, leaving Dominique alone with the consequences of 15 years of deception. Chapter 9. Terminus. 6 months after Dominique's recapture, I sat alone on the deck of a modest cabin, overlooking the Pacific Ocean. This property, registered under a name unknown to anyone from my former life, represented my final severance from the past. Behind me, the cabin door opened, and Noah emerged with 2 cups of coffee. Court TV says the jury's been deliberating for 3 days. Noah reported, handing me a steaming mug. Analysts are split on which way they'll go. I nodded, unsurprised. Your mother's defense team mounted an impressive case. The manipulated by love narrative plays well with certain jurors. Do you think she'll be acquitted? Noah asked. No, I replied with certainty. The evidence is too comprehensive. Your testimony too damaging. But she'll likely receive a lesser sentence than Preston. Preston Harlow had already been convicted on multiple counts of espionage, sentenced to life without parole. His mysterious neurological episode during pre-trial detention had left him with persistent tremors and memory lapses that humanized him to the jury, precisely as I had calculated when ordering the antidote administered at the last possible moment. I spoke with Sophia this morning, Noah mentioned. Her cover in Europe has been officially restored. The agencies are satisfied that her involvement in Mom's case was strictly familial, not operational. I smiled slightly. Your sister has always been adept at managing perceptions. We sat in comfortable silence, watching waves crash against the rocky shoreline below. I had officially retired from all government work, my security clearances voluntarily surrendered. Noah had withdrawn from his university program, instead pursuing specialized training with former colleagues of mine, men and women who recognized the young man's potential and his need for redemption. Do you ever regret how far it went? Noah asked suddenly. The international warrants? Preston's condition? All of it. I considered the question carefully. Regret suggests I would choose differently, given another opportunity. I wouldn't. Not even for my sake. I was collateral damage in your war against Mom. You were a casualty of your mother's decisions long before mine, Noah. I corrected him gently. She poisoned you against me for years. The reunion simply forced me to acknowledge how successful she'd been. Noah winced at the memory of his cruel words. I'm sorry for what I said that night, about Preston being a better father. You believed it at the time, I observed without rancor. Your mother is exceptionally persuasive. Still, Noah insisted, I should have seen through her manipulation. Perhaps I allowed. But you've more than compensated through your testimony and subsequent choices. My phone vibrated with a news alert. I checked the screen, my expression unchanged as I read the notification. The verdict? Noah asked. I nodded. Guilty on all counts except one. Sentencing in 3 weeks, but the minimum mandatory is 20 years. Noah exhaled slowly. It's really over then. This chapter is, I agreed. Life continues. Later that evening, as Noah slept inside the cabin, I received a secure call from Sophia. Congratulations, Dad, she said when I answered. Justice served. At a considerable cost, I noted. But worth it? Sophia asked, knowing her father well enough to understand his calculus. I gazed out at the moonlight reflecting off the Pacific. They took 15 years from me, Sophia. 15 years of lies, manipulation, and betrayal. They mocked me publicly, turned my son against me, and compromised operations that cost lives. And now they have decades to contemplate the consequences of underestimating a man they dismissed as a loser. My voice carried the finality of a closed account. So yes, worth every sacrifice. Noah is healing well, Sophia observed, changing subjects. His training reports are excellent. He has potential. Different from yours but valuable in its own way, I agreed. Will you tell him about the new assignment? The consultancy. I smiled slightly. When he's ready. Some talents shouldn't be wasted in retirement. After ending the call, I remained on the deck until dawn, watching the inexorable rhythm of waves against stone. Nature's patient demonstration that even the hardest surfaces yield eventually to persistent force. Inside the cabin, secure files waited with details of emerging threats and requested assistance from agencies that valued my particular skills. My official retirement had never been intended as an ending, merely a transformation. The man who had been publicly humiliated at a family reunion, who had nodded and checked his watch and walked away rather than causing a scene, had not been demonstrating weakness. He had been exercising the patience of a master strategist who understood that true victory required not emotional outbursts, but calculated, relentless execution. As the first light of morning touched the horizon, Vincent Reynolds opened the file and began planning his next moves. The world had not become safer during his brief retirement. There were still threats to address, still justice to dispense. And Vincent, freed from the burden of pretending to be less than he was, had never been more dangerous.